Alright guys, so this is going to be my joint review here for Kotobukiya's Megami Device Bullet Knights Launcher and Bullet Knights Lancer. So the two kits are very similar, so I wanted to just kind of review them together, but they do come with a little bit different stuff. Some of the parts on them are a little bit different, so just want to help you keep them apart. The launcher is the black one, the Lancer is the white one. We'll take a look at everything that they come with, what is similar, what's different, and all that over the course of the review. If you end up wanting to buy one over the other, or both to have the full set, as always guys, I would recommend you check out USA Gundam Store. The link is down below. You can get these kits and everything else there on their site with 10% off using the coupon code there, ZakuAurelius10, so check that out. The link is down below. Now, as with all Megami Device kits, I had a lot of fun building these, and they're very intricate and a lot of cool parts on them, and the weapons are really nice, and all the different option parts are great. These ones I found, though, are definitely the most finicky. You have a lot of the armor parts, like especially on the forearms, on the side skirts especially, and on the front of the legs. Those extra armor parts are connected via very tiny little connection points, and they can definitely be very touchy. So definitely I would recommend having some glue on hand for these. So any of those little parts that you find maybe falling off frequently, just go ahead and just glue those down in place, because it's just going to drive you crazy as you're trying to pose up the kit. But again, I think everything that you get in the box and just the overall detail and construction of everything definitely make them worth the price. So let's check out all that you get included with these. So first off, let's just note the differences between the main kits here. So the headdress is a little bit different on them. The launcher has the kind of crown bit on the front and these more spiky bits on the side kind of sticking out, and you have the red parts inside there like that. Whereas the Lancer doesn't have the part on the front, it has this kind of thing here on the top, sort of like made sort of look to that, and then these much more sort of like, I don't know, flattened ears there on the side. So different look for the top of the head. The face options are of course different. We'll go over those more in a minute. The hairstyle, of course, different as well, with the Lancer having the kind of tied ponytail there in the back, and the launcher just having a short cut style hair with the kind of bangs over the eyes, and she's got some different options for that as well. And then the bust size is a little bit different on them as well, with the launcher, or the Lancer being a little bit larger. The launcher, sorry, this one is smaller, this one's larger. Anyway, there you go. And then the side skirt parts are a little bit different as well. So for the launcher here, you've got these really pointy kind of scissor bits there. And then for the Lancer over here, you've got this different style of the side skirting kind of armor there. And both of them come with all of the same hand options. They're just going to be in different colors. For the launcher, they're in black. For the Lancer, they're in white. We've got the open resting hands, which I've got there on the kit at the moment. We've also got the holding hands, the open expressive hands here, the closed fists, the holding hands with the trigger finger extended, and then a set of holding hands and extended trigger finger holding hands with a fixed wrist molded in there with the hand there. As for the included water slides, here it is with the launcher. It comes with their mostly gold, and you have a couple of silver ones on there for that. Some really cool markings, and just all of this looks really nice. You got the eye decals down there at the bottom, and just a ton of really nice decals to put on the kit. And then for the Lancer, they're mostly silver with a little bit of gold, and so you've got kind of the opposite there. Once again, eye option decals there at the bottom, some cool marking logos. I like this really cool XI logo there for the Lancer being the 11th in the Megami Device line. So the waterside decals for both of the kits are outstanding. Both of them come with the same set of bases. Now you have two of the regular kind of usually included circle Megami Device bases here, but you're supposed to use one of those, and then you're supposed to use one of these new ones here as well. A little bit different shape and style for that one, but it will work essentially the same. You've got a ball joint there at the base, you can move that around, and then at the top it's also on a ball joint. You can also slide that up and down if you need to adjust the height on there. So these do work really well. And both of the kits have a handful of little leftover parts and things that you won't use, but most notably here on the R-Runner you have a bunch of these little extra connector parts, which could be very useful for doing some different customizing or kit bashing, different options, or just using them for different things with this. So you've got some male to male, female to female connectors there, these kind of differently shaped connectors over here that you can use to turn into joints, and these kind of joint plugs here, or I'm sorry, connector plugs here, which have the Megami Device logo on there. So if you wanted to add those somewhere around on the kit, you can just plug that onto wherever. So you've got some very useful different leftover parts here. Alright, so then for the launcher specifically, let's take a look at her different face options here. So you've got this kind of face. So again, I'm not really sure exactly what to call that, but here is the version of the head without the armor, which we can use later on if we want to use that. If we just remove this part here for the bangs, you can see the face a little bit better. So interesting sort of expression for that face. And then our third face option here is this surprised, shocked face. So one thing that I like about both of these kits, and you'll see when we take a look at the Lancers as well here in a moment, is that a lot of expression with these. So that's really nice. A lot of times with the frame arms kits, you don't really often, I mean, it depends on the kit. They're not quite as, I think the expressions aren't quite as expressive, but these are really nice. And of course the pre-printing on them is really nice, of course, so just straight out of the box they look amazing. As for the Lancer, she's got this cool kind of smiling face there with the tongue out, and then here is the option head without the armor parts on it. We will have to use the kind of pigtail out the back, ponytail, whatever that is, ponytail out the back. You don't have two of those, you only have one, so you'll just swap the rest of the parts with the head. But the second face option part here, as you can see, is this just kind of smiling, looking off to the face, looking off to the side face there. And then the third option one is this very happy face here with those bright glowing eyes, and you have like the yellow bits in the eyes as well. It's actually tiny little yellow hearts. You zoom in really close there. Sorry, it's actually, the hearts are pink, but you have like yellow highlights there at the bottom of the eyes. So anyway, the eyes on these look really, really good. And then for whatever reason, these come with some extra weapons, which are silverware. So the launcher comes with two like steak knives or butter knives, whatever. It just comes with two knives. And the Lancer comes with a fork and a spoon. So these are definitely very interesting weapons, quote-unquote weapons, to be included with these. It says that they're meant to be for close combat, but of course these are just very funny and fun little accessories to be included. Both of the kits include optional parts here for the upper arms and the legs, those gold rings. You have these optional versions which have peg holes in there if you wanted to plug different things onto them. And then of course both include options for the kind of unarmored state. So if you want to take off these extra bits here on the side skirts, parts on the side of the hand, these parts on the front of the leg, you can swap some parts out to have just these kind of not bare feet, but it's just kind of like socked feet here. These feet aside from just the high heels, which are on the armored version. And then just flesh tone parts here for the upper thighs to replace those black parts. And then flesh tone replacement parts as well here for the white for the stomach and the chest there. You can replace those with these, so I'll show you the unarmored version of these later on in the review. And then of course both of them come with their giant shield. Now the shields are exactly the same. The connector parts on the back is exactly the same, as you can see as well, just they're molded in different colors. So obviously with the launcher, you've got that here in dark black basically, and then with the Lancer, it's here in white. Now, especially in the case of the Lancer, with it being all white like that, you definitely going to want to do some panel lining on that to just bring out the details on that. With the launcher, with it being black, you can see the details a little bit better, but definitely doing some panel lining, doing some little top coating and decals on there on both of these. Decaling especially is going to help kind of make these a lot more interesting looking. Now, these are pretty heavy, but I don't think they're going to be too big of an issue to at least hold, as long as they're connected onto the arm in some way. But you can also connect these onto this apparatus here on their back. So you may have noticed this here before. You have this whole big thing of all this articulation, these big articulated arms that you can plug onto many different things, but of course the shield being a logical option to plug onto them, as so then you don't have to plug that actually onto the arm and rely on the arm joint to hold that up. You can just plug that onto this articulated arm there, which is connected onto her back. And then of course we have the main event here of the launcher and the lance here for them, again, respectively. As you can see, the back half of them, this whole section is exactly the same, just the colors are going to be swapped there. They have the same row of connectors here at the top and along the side, and all of that out the back as well. So basically just the front half of them is different. The launcher here obviously having this big giant cannon, and it looks really cool. And then the Lancer just obviously being a giant lance. So these are going to be coming in at around 35 centimeters in length, or about 14 inches. So they're very, very long. If you see the launcher here in relation to the actual Megami Device herself, it is definitely more than twice the height of the main kit. So on both of them here, you have a couple different handles. You can see you've got different style handles on the left and the right. This one's sticking straight out and this one just down like that. But you have some options for that as well. Basically, you've got left and right versions of each style of handle. So if you wanted to have them both facing straight down, or you want to have them both facing down like that, or both straight out, you have options for those handles. You could, of course, plug one of the handles onto somewhere else onto the kit, just onto like further back down there like that. You don't necessarily have to plug it into this kind of shielded handle part here, which can rotate, by the way, but as it is with all this stuff, it's just very mix and matchable. You can plug that onto wherever. If you wanted to have one a little bit further back like that so they're not lining up the same, you can do that. Of course, there's plenty of customized options with these. Before we get into testing out if these can actually wield these giant weapons, one thing that you can do with them is swap the parts around and move things around a little bit to turn it into this thing that they can actually ride on top of. And so you've got the forward handles here, and of course you've got all sorts of articulation with these, as you could expect. And then the back feet will go back using these back handles there, and it's using parts that were originally on her back. And you'll have her basically just sort of like riding along like that in there. It's kind of silly, but kind of cool, I guess, if you want to have her actually riding on this weapon rather than just wielding it as a giant weapon, having it as something to ride on. You've got the shield on there underneath as well. It could be something kind of cool. Alright, so it definitely takes some doing and getting everything all lined up and everything, but you can get it to hold it, and I just have this just connected onto the action base there at the back, so I'm not using the action base to hold up the end of the cannon at all by any means, so you don't need to use two bases for this, two stands for this necessarily, although obviously I think if you did, that would most certainly make it more easy to do so. Although one interesting thing to note is that whether it's the launcher or the lancer, neither of them have any connection point anywhere on the bottom of the weapon towards the front end. So like if you wanted to plug an action base, one of the bases up into the bottom of the front half of the weapon just to help support it, there's no place to do that. You'd have to drill a hole in there or use something else, not a solid just 3mm peg connection to hold that up, if that makes sense. So I'll show you guys a couple different poses here, and at the end also including the forms without all the extra armor and everything, the low armored forms of these, just so you guys can see that. But of course, with any of these kits, obviously there's a ton of different things that you can do in terms of customizing them, even with what's included in the box, but then of course going even more so with just other Kotobukiya parts, Megami Device kits, or other option weapons and things like that. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that you can do with them. I'm just showing you a couple different options, but really of course a lot of the fun that comes with these is just getting it and trying out different things until you get to a really cool pose or weapon option loadout or something that you really like, and that's just a lot of fun. Another thing about these, which is actually something that I am actually strongly considering, is taking those giant weapons and using them with something different. Especially the giant launcher, I think would look really cool with some Gunpla. So I haven't really thought about what exactly kit to give that to, but just taking like a big high grade or like a master grade or something, giving it that big giant weapon, I think would be pretty awesome. Recently I remember seeing about that metal robot Damashi figure or something of the Hainu that comes with a giant launcher like that, and it's kind of very similar sort of design to this. So imagine giving this to something like Hainu. I think that'd be pretty awesome, or just, you know, whatever. Anyway, if you're willing to get one of these kits and take its main weapon away and give it that to something else, you could have some cool kit bash options with your Gunpla as well. The shield as well is pretty cool. It could be definitely used by some different Gunpla. Just because of the size of it, I think it would be very fitting for any sort of like master grade kit as well. I could see it being used definitely by like a master grade Gelgoog or something like that. It's sort of similar to the size of that. But anyway, I'm just really spitballing at this point. Obviously these kits are very cool, and there's tons of different customizing options that are available to you, and a lot of really nice detail on there as well. But you do have some very finicky parts, and posing them does take a little while to get everything all lined up, and of course you have the problem of some parts falling off here and there all along the way. So just gluing any troublesome parts that you can is going to help, and it just takes a little bit of patience, but ultimately you can get them to look really cool, and just everything on them looks good. The face options as well, a lot of emotion there, and just the color scheme straight out of the box is nice too. The white and black and a little bit of red accents in there and gold accents all looks really nice. So while I wouldn't necessarily say that these are my favorite Megami Device kits that I've built yet, I would say that I still recommend them if you're a fan of the Megami Device kits, the line in general. Definitely check these out, one or both of them. There's a lot to like about either of the kits, but having them as a set up on the shelf I think would definitely look really cool as well. So that's it for my review, guys. If you guys have any other further questions or comments, of course, feel free to leave those down below. Again, thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support in sponsoring this review. Check out their site, the link is down in the video description as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.